Today, Justin Trudeau destroyed the Northern Gateway pipeline. That pipeline had already been approved by the National Energy Board after the most rigorous environmental and safety review in Canadian history. It was approved with 209 special conditions. It would have been the safest, most high-tech oil pipeline in the world, and Trudeau killed it today in a single sentence. In Trudeau's mandate letter to his new Transport Minister, Marc Garneau, which is Garneau's marching orders, Trudeau wrote, quote, "Formalize a moratorium on crude oil tanker traffic on British Columbia's north coast," unquote. That's all it took to kill it. I mean, they couldn't ban the pipeline. It was already approved, so they just banned any tanker ships. Well, that's not quite true, of course. Oil tanker ships regularly come down from Alaska, pass by British Columbia on their way to the continental U.S. Trudeau won't ban those, of course. And he won't ban ships that bring fuel to BC towns and cities along the coast. That's how they get their oil and gasoline, by boat, of course. That won't be banned. No, this will just ban ships that would sell Alberta oil to the world. It's like a naval embargo on Alberta industry, except embargoes are usually put on by hostile foreign powers, not your own government. Of course, Trudeau won't put a crude oil tanker embargo on Canada's east coast. Most of the oil coming to Quebec and the Atlantic provinces is imported, much of it from OPEC countries, including Saudi Arabia and Algeria. They often navigate through much narrower and more treacherous waters than on the west coast. But so what? Trudeau's not actually against oil. He's just against Alberta oil. He's not against oil tankers. He's just against Canadian tankers exporting Alberta oil, not OPEC tankers importing conflict oil. Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, would be so proud. Pierre Trudeau brought in the National Energy Program, but that was a complicated piece of legislation with all sorts of rules and regulations and taxes and subsidies, very complicated. But this is just a 13-word sentence in a letter. Pierre Trudeau used a machine gun to kill Alberta's oil patch. By comparison, Justin Trudeau just used a sniper shot, same effect. By the way, if you care about jobs and the middle class and Aboriginal people and the West and exports, well, the Northern Gateway pipeline was a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure project. It started at $6 billion, but over the years, with all the changes and conditions, it was growing to be a $10 billion project. By the way, 10% of it was owned by Indian bands, who also had construction job set-asides. It would have been the largest infrastructure project in Canada, and without a dime of taxpayer money, unlike Trudeau's favorite corporate welfare bums like Quebec's Bombardier, always begging for more. And of course, the point of the pipeline wasn't its construction, but what it would do after it was constructed: ship 550,000 barrels of oil per day to the coast, to foreign markets. Even at today's low prices, that's worth $25 million a day to the economy. Last week, Barack Obama killed the Keystone XL pipeline. He chose to continue to import OPEC conflict oil from Venezuela over Canadian ethical oil. But look, he's a foreign leader. He's not Canadian. He has no democratic duty towards Alberta or Canada. But what Trudeau did with his one-sided tanker ban was to penalize his own country in favor of foreign countries. Saudi tankers are still welcome in Canada, bringing in conflict oil to our east coast. Canadian tankers are banned off the west coast, and so are the BC construction jobs and Alberta oil jobs that go with them. But this is no surprise. Trudeau has always despised the West, especially Alberta. He learned that from his father. I mean, remember this?
Regardez, le Canada fait dur maintenant parce que c'est des Albertains qui contrôlent notre agenda communautaire et socio-démocratique. Ça marche pas.
Est-ce que le Canada est mieux servi quand il y a plus de Québécois au pouvoir que quand il y a plus d'Albertains au pouvoir?
Ben, je suis libéral, alors c'est sûr que je pense que oui. Certainement, quand on regarde les grands premiers ministres du 20e siècle, les seuls qui ont vraiment tenu le coup, c'était des députés du Québec. C'était Trudeau, c'était Mulroney, c'était Chrétien, c'était Paul Martin. Alors, on a un rôle, ce pays, le Canada, est à nous.
But the real power behind the throne here is Gerald Butts, Trudeau's extremist principal advisor, who used to head up the World Wildlife Fund's Canadian branch, paid in part by U.S. anti-oil lobbyists. Here, listen to Gerald Butts a couple of years ago.
We don't think it's up to us to decide whether there should be another route for a pipeline, because the real alternative is not an alternative route, it's an alternative economy.
Justin Trudeau hates Alberta. He grew up in a home that hated Alberta. Gerald Butts hates the oil industry. Oh, and both of these haters still have yet to go to the Paris Global Warming Summit to announce their carbon tax plans. Yeah, that's next. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.